told there are too limited resources to work on anything else, and often our ideas are dismissed out of hand because as not viable, and city staff have not been very forthcoming in offering information and dialogue about what the city can do. And it's very clear that the city is risk averse, and so ideas are flatly, again, dismissed. We are still unclear how we would feed any budget recommendations we had into the process, and we've asked a couple of times how that might happen. And until recently, we did not have any good visibility into sustainability initiatives that staff were undertaking. I think that is starting to improve. In my years on the commission, the way we operate has changed significantly, but we've often been left to figure out how those changes are now being implemented. For example, in the past, a commissioner could speak on the behalf of the commission if it was something that the commission had voted on, but now we're being told we need to vote to elect that person, but we don't even know in advance of a meeting in order to be able to do that. So that provides very little opportunity for the commission to communicate with the council. I see I'm running out of time, but I will submit the rest in writing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Those are important comments, and I'm glad you made them tonight.
The next speaker is Diane Connolly.
Hi. Okay. I'm Diane Connolly. I've been a resident since 1956. First, a compliment. The orchard has not looked this good for years. Whoever's in charge of that is doing an excellent job. Maybe you get some credit for that. Second thing, the existing dog park by the community center has lots of convenient parking. Another dog park by the library is still not a good idea. Despite letters to the town crier and negative reinforcement by the residents, the city council has gone ahead with the plans for the park right there by the entrance to the library. People will use the library parking for their dogs and then walk over. That spot should be available for people using the library. Library parking is often hard to find. That's okay. So, can't we find a better place? 3, we do need a new police station. We all know it. And instead of this depressing one that we have with fiberglass insulation, that building now, that you've called the youth center, that's for the government functioning offices now? Is that what? So, I know it's expensive, but it's got to be done before somebody says, what are you using this thing for with fiberglass in it? I've been in schools where you get in trouble for fiberglass. Get a fiberglass. They need a station. The other thing the city needs is a larger library. And I've heard that it can't be done, but it can be done. You can get an engineer. I know, my dad was. It's always possible. Cantilevers, there's things you can do. Go up. Save the trees. And while I'm here, and it's still I've got plenty of time, we had a street issue, with A Street being very dangerous for bicycles going to school, the most dangerous spot. It's a small road, but it's the most dangerous. Kids on bikes. Kids I watch them. They're trying to figure out how many bikes make a car. And they're all trying to figure, some fourth grader trying to figure out, I think I'm not a car yet. I have to get more bikes. It's hard. There's a road that the drive-in uses. It's let them use that A Street drive-in for bikes.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry that I need to interrupt you, but we have to enforce the 3-minute limit. I would invite you, though, to email your comments to us, or you're always welcome to come to our office hours or contact any one of us. Why don't you give it to the city clerk, please? Thank you.
The next. Thank you. Right. The next speaker is Pierre Bedard.
Good evening, and thanks for having me, fellow council members. I'm here today because, I'm never upset, ever. But I saw an ad in the Palo Alto Daily Post going after one of the candidates in the upcoming race, and I couldn't just sit here and not say a thing. They essentially, Ibrahim Bashir was a library commissioner and served for 1.5 years. I actually replaced him on the commission, but as we all know, it's not easy being a commissioner. Every one of you has been a commissioner. And, I'm not going to go into the ad, but to actually trash somebody for having the guts to serve in some capacity was beyond the pale. It's a bullying tactic done by the Golden State Voices United. And I just feel like Citizens United has come to Los Altos. It's ridiculous. I mean, it's gutless. Really, that's the first thought to my mind. What if I was running and, I didn't do lead and that came out as somehow that made me a bad person or I did whatever. But anyway, I had to stand up for Ibrahim. That's why I'm here. I stand, this is not an endorsement. I'm speaking as strictly as a citizen, not as someone who has been through the process, as I know you all have. And it's just important to know that bullying shouldn't be part of this. And I would love to know who these people are. I know we have a lot of rinks down in San Jose where we could meet, discuss this, like Canadians. And as an immigrant, I'm even more upset by that because as an immigrant, I had to learn English when I was 6. It's not easy. It's like you think, people think that it's just natural, that it just comes, that just by virtue of being here, success is guaranteed. It's not like that at all. Things like the public library, getting appointed to the library commission was probably one of the happiest days of my life. And as who I am, and I'm sure for Ibrahim, it was the same. And to be trashed? No. And trashed namelessly? Absolutely not. Beyond the pale. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those comments. Okay. With that, we will move on to our consent calendar. I'm going to open up the consent calendar to public comment. There's only one item. I'm not expecting any. But if you would like to speak on consent calendar, this is the time to do it. Even if this item gets pulled, you will not have an opportunity to speak later. So, Madam City Clerk, is there anyone who wants to speak on consent?
I have no cards for the consent calendar.
Okay. Does anyone want to take anything off consent? If not, then I'll take a motion. Vice Mayor.
I move that the City Council of the City of Los Altos pass the consent calendar as presented in the agenda.
Second.
Councilmember Liang,
Yes.
Councilmember Fliger,
Yes.
Councilmember Meadows,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Daley,
Yes.
Mayor Weinberg.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're now moving on to item number 2. This is our public hearing for tonight. This is districting meeting number 5 pursuant to the rules required by the CVRA. So let me open it up to staff for a report, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. While I'm pulling up my presentation, I will clarify this is meeting number 4, not meeting number 5.
Excuse me. Thank you.
Though there may be some who wish it was number 5. Okay, well, I'm calling this up. I just have a short presentation before I hand it over to Liz for her presentation. I wanted to just give you a quick recap of the community outreach efforts that we undertook this past 4 weeks. There is a summary in your packet, but I thought I would just kind of briefly go over it for those who have not read through the packet yet. We held a number of events over the last 4 weeks, including presentations to various community groups. We did tabling at a number of locations throughout the city. We tried to vary some of the times and days that we did those tables. And then we held 2 community workshops. I was informed that my presentations are usually really boring, and so I tried to throw in some pictures of the various events that took place. We had a good number of folks that we were able to talk with and to hear from at all of these events. A quick, just short summary of what we heard. We heard a lot of questions, which was great to be able to talk with people through their questions and hopefully help some more of the community understand what it is that we're doing and why we're doing it. We did hear a lot of frustration that the city is going through the process. Most people understood why we were doing it. There were some folks who do support the idea of moving to districts. Some of the feedback that we heard was quite interesting. We talked to one individual who would say, you know, we should keep El Camino as one district. And then the very next person we talked to would say, no, we should have 2 districts for El Camino. We'd talk to people who would say, you know, we should not really divide along the main streets because people on both sides of the streets have the same interests. Again, the next person would say, no, we should divide along the main streets because then those streets have 2 representatives for that street. We'd have one person would say, well, I like map C. The next person would say, I like map A. Those maps have some significant differences. And so we heard a lot of good feedback, a lot of split sort of opinions on some of the main issues. Like I say, there's a more detailed summary of some of the comments that we heard. We try to capture them exactly as they were said in your packet. And with that, I will stop sharing and let Liz take over.
Good evening. I'm just going to share my screen real fast so I can pull up the presentation. As John mentioned, this is the 4th meeting. The goal tonight is to narrow down some maps, themes that you like in the map, so we can come back next time with some maps that you feel comfortable voting on. So what we're going to go over tonight, again, the required districting criteria. This is something that we have to follow. We'll also go over the public maps and the draft maps, and we do have 2 new maps for tonight, and then go over the public hearing schedule and what's next. Now, you do have the option to do some live drawing as well, if you want to do that tonight. So again, we're following the Fair Maps Act guidelines when we're drawing maps. And the number 1 guideline criterion is keeping districts relatively equal in population. Then we need to ensure the maps are contiguous. We maintain communities of interest as much as possible. The boundaries should be easy to identify and should be understandable. And then keeping districts compact, so we're avoiding those funny looking shapes. The public maps, we've had 11 maps submitted on Districtor, in addition to A, B, and C, and then we've had 10 more maps and 2 community of interest maps as well that were created before maps D and E. And they all demonstrate different ways of looking at the maps that we'll get into. We also have heat maps that we're going to go over. So this includes the voter and citizen voting age population that's there to tell us the voting ability within the areas. We'll also go over voter turnout, and the city has very high voter turnout, which is indicative of very people who are very engaged in their community. And then I'll show you the homeowner and renter heat maps. They're essentially inverses of each other, which you'll notice. And then the age heat map as well, and income levels in addition to the Asian population CVAP. And then when we did a heat map of the environmental scoring, it all was the highest level. So it was all a green map. So we didn't include that, but what that tells us is that it's very healthy here, at least environmentally. So you can tell with this map, this is the citizen voting age population, and next to it is the total voters. So the CVAP is coming from UC Berkeley's statewide database, and then total voters is coming from PDI, Political Data Inc. It essentially looks the same with a few changes. So you can notice in the north, it looks like there is a little bit less population in terms of voter turnout and actual citizen voting age population. We can contribute that to either there being less citizens or more children. And then when we look at the voter turnout, again, this is a lot higher than the statewide average. We're in the 90s when there's a presidential election, and we're in the 70s when there's a gubernatorial election. So again, it's a very engaged population, and it's mostly throughout the entire city, very engaged. And then we have the homeowners and renters. So on the left, it's renters. On the right, it's homeowners. Overwhelmingly, people are homeowners here. You can tell there's more renters in the north. So if we do look at maps, and we don't want to use San Antonio as a divider, we could make a district that is more potentially voter or renter friendly. However, again, the vast majority of residents are homeowners or live in a house where they own the house. And then we have the median income and age. So high income earners, it doesn't appear that anyone, or at least the average, it does not really dip below $140,000 a year. And then you can see the average age. So there is one area in the south, in the Highlands area, where the average age is 86, but then we have average ages throughout the district or throughout the city where it's in the 40s.
Yeah,
Yeah.
please.
Where did the age data come from? That doesn't make sense to me for the Highlands to be such an outlier in that regard.
So that should come from the American Community Survey. So again, that's coming from the U.S. Census Bureau. And we can double check that, but that is the data that we've received from
So
them.
the
That,
data-
that can't possibly be
It's
right.
it's not accurate. The data that I've seen from the voter registration database is 30 years younger than that for that neighborhood.
Okay, and yeah.
Yeah.
Also, the thing is, if that data is correct, then it contradicts some of the median income. So then I want to understand how that median income information is where it comes from, because also, does it include investment or investment income as well, or is it just income from when they get to income or whatever?
Right, like a job.
Yeah.
I believe it's just income level, so it would be from a job that they're working. That is self-reported, and that is from the American Community Survey.
Okay. There are hundreds of homes in that particular tract. There's no way the average age is 86. I don't believe there's any way that the average income is $377,000.
And we'll double check that, but that is from what the data says.
Okay.
So is investment income taken into account when they look at income as well? And do they also look at, I guess, do we have a heat map? Because then it also takes into account, like, do we have a heat map based on property values as well, or how it looks?
I don't have that heat map. I can look into that. And in terms of, other forms of income, I would have to check in on that as well. And then the last heat map is the Asian citizen voting age population heat map. Figured this would be good for us to see since this is a CVRA conversion, and people do have the ability to look up heat maps on Districtor as well. So it looks very similar when we pull it up on our account and Districtor. And then getting into neighborhoods. So there is no official neighborhood according to the city. However, there clearly are. So we pulled up a neighborhood summary used, I believe, by real estate firms. And these are the neighborhoods that we have found and broken them up and included them with the draft maps as well. However, this is really here for discussion. So are there more neighborhoods that we're not including here? That would be incredibly helpful for us to know so we can keep neighborhoods together as much as possible. And then, of course, school districts. This has come up multiple times in testimony. Of course, we've heard about Cupertino Unified. We've also heard about Ullman Elementary School as well. But it's important to keep in mind that school districts, particularly Cupertino and Los Altos, it goes well beyond the borders of the city. So we're still required to maintain a balanced district using the population that we have. And then, of course, there's the business districts. This is just a quick summary of them, and they were used to develop maps D and E. So you have like the downtown area, Foothill Crossing, and a few others included as well. So we'll have that overview with the maps D and E. Now, the city, the way that it's structured, it is limited in terms of how we can draw maps. So we'll be going over some binary options in order to nail down what type of map, what kind of roads you want to see used as dividers. And we're going to go over some themes that we've seen from the public. So first one is San Antonio Road used as a divider in the north. We've seen that from quite a few of the maps submitted. And then dividing line for 3 north districts, 2 southern districts. Clearly, there's this natural neck that the city has, and it's really finding which road we want to use to be that divider from the north to the south. And we've seen things like using Miramonte or Russell or Springer Road. And then there's the southern portion, so it's Highlands, South Los Altos, and figuring out the best way to divide that as well. So the southern portion is going to have 2 different districts. And of course, using something like Cupertino School District is way too large, so that inevitably does have to be split. So getting into the binaries, and again, this is the northern part of the city. How do we want to use San Antonio Road, if at all, as a divider? So we can use it going north to south, or we can have a different drawing going from east to west. And again, that's keeping together a lot more of the renters. However, when we use San Antonio Road, that's keeping together a lot of Almond Elementary School's attendance area. And then where do we divide the central part of the city? So do we use Springer Road, Miramonte, Altos, Oaks? These are some options that we can get into on what is the most appropriate boundary. You can see the differences here. And then where to divide the southern part of the city. So do we keep Highlands together or do we split it? We've had conflicting testimony where folks wanted to keep it together, but then I remember at the last meeting, there was a woman who preferred to split it and follow her business center. So this is a summary of the different binaries that we're looking at, and hopefully we can have a discussion tonight on what the preferred boundaries are. And let's go over the draft maps. We've gone through A and C last time, so I'll go over those a little bit more quickly. And then D and E are new, and they're based on those business centers, ensuring that each district has their own business center, and keeping in mind we're trying to make things as accessible as possible. So keeping in mind people want to be able to walk to their business centers. So here's draft A. Again, we went over this last time. This is based off of a public map. Total deviation is 8.3%. And here it is with the neighborhoods. So due to just population balance, we do need to split some neighborhoods. However, it does keep intact many of them, as you can see. And then total deviation, 8.3%. And then we have draft B. So again, we went over this last time. This is a different configuration in terms of the north. So it does go over a bit of the San Antonio Road. And then when we look at the neighborhoods, you can see this one splits neighborhoods a little bit more. And then draft C. So this one has a total deviation of 5.5%, again, based on a draft map submitted from the public. So it's a different iteration of the north. And this is the breakdown of neighborhoods. Total deviation, 5.5%. So getting into the new maps, this is draft D. Its purpose is to not only follow the Fair Maps Act guidelines, but also to ensure that there's at least one business district in each election district. So with that in mind, it does not use San Antonio Boulevard as a divider. Otherwise, it would have been difficult to do that and maintain business districts in each election district. This also splits the Highlands. Again, that was necessary to ensure that there are different business districts in each district. And here it is with the neighborhoods. Total deviation, 7%. And then here's draft E. This is drawn in the spirit of the CVRA. This one has the highest Asian CVAP, and it also ensures that each election district has a business center. So it's very similar to D, but mostly the change is in the southern part of the city. And here it is with neighborhoods. Total deviation is about 8.7%. So again, it's under that 10% maximum that cities are afforded. Districting schedule, clearly tonight is the fourth meeting, but it's also my understanding that you guys potentially would like an additional meeting to do live drawing. You're also encouraged to do live drawing tonight if you would like, with October 8th being the final meeting. And this is a summary of all of the community events. And of course, for anyone who wants to participate in these and future, you can always go to the website as well. All of that information will be in that one area. So tonight, again, using the draft maps as just a starting off point, none of the draft maps are drawn to be final. It's there to be built upon. So using the information that we've gathered from community meetings, how would you like to see changes to a map or create a brand new map? Any adjustments can be made tonight, or you can give us instructions to make those changes and bring them forward next time. And we'll have those prepared for you guys at the next meeting. So that is the end of the presentation. I'm happy to take questions or directions.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll ask the first question. So forgive me, I don't mean to be the grumpy guy, but because of the curved wall, this room is designed to make it easier for us up here to hear everything that's being said. I know that there's whispering going on. We hear cell phones go off. We really do hear everything. So if you just ask if you need to talk or make a phone call, please go outside to do it because we do hear everything. Were the heat maps used at all to inform maps A through E?
No, we are looking for direction from you guys on how you want to use those heat maps.
Okay. The heat maps clearly have suspect data, and I'm just curious, whatever you did use to inform maps A through E, is it the same source of data that the heat maps were drawn from?
No.
Thank you. Okay, who would like to ask questions? Anyone from council? Okay, Councilmember Liang.
So obviously the maps were derived from publicly submitted maps, correct?
A through C.
Correct. So I was just wondering why it wasn't utilizing your experience and knowledge in creating maps. Because many of the maps or submissions were based on people who were strongly objecting to this process. So in order to have maps that would be based on just an professional perspective, instead of just based off CVRA, because like the other ones is truly based off CVRA information, but not taking into account the communities of interest incorporated. Can you explain that to me?
Yeah, I mean, in our professional experience, getting maps from the public usually is one of the best ways to get information. And we have based a lot of our previous maps from other cities off of publicly drawn maps, and they tend to prefer that. It's coming directly from the public. So they understand the neighborhoods and the region better than demographers.
You also said that you used data based on school district. So did we get, where'd you get the information on the boundaries? Because the whole section that you had identified as Highlands, part of that section is Los Altos School District. So I just want to make sure that because then perhaps then you could incorporate all of the Grant Park neighborhood, which is Grant Park, as well as all of the Highlands area if we kept the school districts separate.
Yeah, the school district boundaries are, it's in the public domain. So we have previously, we have school districts from throughout the state. If it's not correct, please let us know and we can make those changes and base a map off of that as well.
That'd be great, thank you. Yeah, because what is identified,
Sorry, if I could jump in really
Okay.
quick. So looking at the map on the Cupertino Union School District, all of the Los Altos portion of the Highlands is in CUSD. It's when you get into the county, that becomes LASD.
oh, okay, yeah, because there is a county section and becomes, so past Granger, because at the end of Granger, it is LASD, so at the end of Granger. So I just want to make sure, because it looks like that whole section. See, the trouble is with these things, I can't see the streets. And then if I could see the bridge and everything, I could be made clear on where all the clear marks are. And it was hard to see, because even if we blow it up, we don't have clear demarcation or markings of where the streets are. So, thank you.
And there should be a URL link. I hope you guys received the URL link for each map. That does allow you to zoom in and look at the street level.
You know, I'm not the best at technology, so I relied on the maps that I was given. But thank you.
Yeah, Councilmember Liang, any other questions? Okay. Councilmember Flagger.
Thank you, Mayor, and thanks, Liz, for the presentation. I just want to clarify the process and the plan for tonight. Because based on your presentation and explanation from staff, I think we now understand what has been done to date. And so it's better understanding the plan for tonight. So for example, at the last meeting, council mentioned different heat map factors and communities of interest that we thought should be factored into any draft maps. Thanks for including the business districts. Obviously, you did the work for that one. I guess for me, and maybe that's what you have planned for tonight, is when we look at these different options, and an easy example would be, do we divide the El Camino district or do we keep it together? I think what would be helpful is having both options to say if you keep it together, then you also end up with at least a park in that district. And there's also a business district there. And you also keep seniors together. But if you split El Camino into two different districts, you won't have those things that you care about, but this is what you gain with it. So those are the types of things I think I was looking for, and maybe my colleagues, so that we can make decisions on, let's keep it together because here are the benefits, X, Y, Z, versus if we separate El Camino into East-West, what happens there? And so is that something you plan to do tonight as part of the discussion and us working on maps together?
Yes. So really hoping to get direction from the city council tonight on how they want maps to look. And we can pull up the maps and even go on district or use a map as a template and see what those changes would look like if we took the direction that you're looking for.
And not only what the changes would look like, but factoring in the things that we've already shared at the last two meetings we care about, right? So you could say to us, if you do this, then this is what you're going to end up with, but you lose this. And if you do this other option, this is what you end up with, and you lose that. Still meeting the basic legal requirements of size, being contiguous, all those things. But then layered on top of it, once we meet the basic legal requirements, these are other things that I think we've all expressed wanting to see together in each district.
Sure, yeah. Absolutely, we can do that.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor, any questions? Okay. Councilmember Meadows, do you have any questions?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Please go ahead.
So with the districtor, because I was looking at how to create maps, certain blocks are within set numbers, and you don't seem to be able to cut them in half or anything. How do we get around that? Or do you have a special program that allows you to do that?
So legally, we can't cut those blocks if they have population in them. So we're required to use exact census data. And once we start cutting blocks, we get into the realm of estimation. and then we're essentially creating our own data set. So we have to keep those blocks together. That's the smallest unit of geography that the US Census Bureau gives us.
Okay, because like on the north side, you had like a whole tract on the north
Yeah.
that's really big. And if you could break that up, that would have been helpful. Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember. All right, I will now open the public hearing. Madam City Clerk, how many speaker cards do we have? Well, they're all coming now.
Currently 0, but there's a race to me, so if you could come around here, I can take them or pass. Yeah. I know the first one is Freddie Wheeler. I can tell by the speaker card.
Okay, let's give 3 minutes per speaker, please.
Thank you. Thank you. I understand that we're going to talk about a number of things tonight, including residency requirements for people who are going to run from a district, and which districts will go first. So I wanted to comment on the maps and those 2 items. My first comment is, living in the Highlands, I really hate the idea of maps D and E splitting the Highlands, because I think we really are a community, and I would just really hate to see that. I want to comment on residency requirements. I know some cities don't have any residency requirements, and you can, theoretically decide you're going to rent a room at the hotel downtown and run from downtown for downtown district the same day. I don't think that's a great idea. I think if you're going to represent the district, you really need to know something about the district. And how could you possibly know something about the district if you didn't live there for a while? So I would urge you to have some residency requirements, and not 30 days like some jurisdictions. I really think a year would be ideal. That's my opinion. The last thing is, I've sat through all these meetings and listened to the attorney that we have as our consultant for being compliant with the law that we're having to comply with for these district elections. And all I hear is you can't choose the districts that will go first based on this or that or this or that, but there's really, I haven't heard what you can base them on. You can base your decision on X, Y, and Z. So I think we're sitting here with no direction as to how do you make that choice? What 2 districts are going to go first in 2026? And to me, the obvious choice is South Los Altos and North Los Altos. We have someone who's up for re-election who lives in South Los Altos. We have someone who's termed out who lives in North Los Altos. Doesn't it make sense to have those 2 go first? But yet, incumbency is not supposed to be considered. I'm just saying, why don't we consider it?
Go ahead and keep going. I forgot for this topic, the comments are supposed to be untimed, so sorry about that. Go ahead and take all the time that you need.
Oh, okay. I just think that makes sense. We should just do it and let them prove that it's illegal to do it. I don't know. I should know better, but I just think it's the right thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is John Bayer.
Mayor, can I ask the city attorney for a question? Because based on what she asked.
Yes.
So I did have some questions regarding that residency requirements. And it's not that someone can move in. When they stated residency requirements, it was based on you have to reside in that district. Isn't that so?
Yes, that's,
So if you could clarify that, or one of you could clarify what it means about residency requirements, that will help clarify it. And then if you could answer based on, if it just so happens, because I know in the other cities, it just so happens the elections that they chose to have up for elections just so happens to be candidates that were terming, or their term was up and there was going to be election. It wasn't that it's illegal to choose those districts, but, and that could be allowed, correct? So if you could answer those two, that'll be helpful. So in case other speakers had questions or were to speak on that, they can speak on something else. Thank you.
Sure, yes. So related to the residency requirements, there's two different types of residency requirements. One relates to whichever the candidate is must reside in the district for which they are running, but there's also a durational residency requirement, and so that's something that the prior public commenter was speaking about. And so there are some cities that don't have any durational residency requirements. Others have a requirement of 30 days. There is I think it's a Court of Appeal case from the city of Chico, which said that a year-long residency requirement was unconstitutional, but they didn't specifically state what period would be constitutional. And so 30-day requirements have been found to be, I don't know if there's, I personally am not aware of any other city that has a requirement for longer than 30 days. And then related to the second question about what determines the sequence of elections. So we unfortunately have just a very squishy answer there. It's that special consideration needs to be given to community input when the city council determines what the sequence of elections should be.
Thank you, that's helpful.
And that concludes my comments.
Thank you very much.
Oh, I'm sorry. So, sorry, we got to add a little levity to the proceedings here. Okay, so first of all, I think Freddie Wheeler has made some really good comments with regard to residency, and I would encourage a residency requirement that is longer rather than shorter, but stays within the requirements of the law. And with regard to which districts, I think, again, astute comment and, logic should prevail. If we have, candidates who are terming out it happens to be in two different districts, boy, it certainly makes a lot of sense to make those two districts the first districts that have elections. Sometimes logic prevails, sometimes it doesn't. Okay, my specific comments are do not split districts by major roads, San Antonio, El Monte, Springer, okay? And particularly don't split the city, if at all possible, using those vertical lines. You've seen some of the maps. I think it's maps C, D, and E, which tend to be more horizontal. Because, and here's the point, the requirements talk about communities of interest. They don't talk about neighborhoods. There's a difference between those two. I have a neighborhood, but my community of interest, in my particular case, are all the people who are affected by what happens along San Antonio and what happens in downtown. And that covers people on both sides of San Antonio Road. And it covers a broader downtown community of interest. El Camino, for better or worse, I believe is a community of interest. Things that surround Loyola Corners is a community of interest. And it is different, distinctly different than a neighborhood. And I would encourage you to change your thinking a little bit, because it took me a while to understand that the two are really different, and the language does not talk about neighborhoods. So a couple of comments in terms of process. I would continue to encourage the council to request
consultants to send their reports in ahead of time, post them with the agenda, post them ahead of time so that the public has an opportunity to review it. You folks on council have an opportunity to review it ahead of time. So when there are questions about things like where the hell the data came from and is it right or wrong, there's at least some cycle time. We've gone through this process too many times, and I kept on looking. I looked at 6:45 tonight, and there wasn't a posting of the consultant report. That we can't be doing it. There's too much data, there's too much complexity here, and we all deserve, council and the community deserves to be able to look at the information, analyze it, and then come to council meetings and ask intelligent questions. I think the comment that Councilman Liang made was valid. Have the consultants mark the streets. The major streets need to be in a black pen so that we know where San Antonio is, where we know where El Monte is and Springer are and Grant Road on any of the maps that get done. It's just a helpful guidepost for all of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments.
John, one quick question, if you don't mind, because you said you're leaning towards the maps that you seem to be leaning for preference to see and.
So I drew my own map. Unfortunately, despite what the consultants told us, there was no way to add comments to it. And so it just went into the ether. But maps C, D, and E sort of address that, but they have the disadvantage of some of the districting is along the major thoroughfares. And I intentionally made my map so a lot of it in North Los Altos was horizontal, and it intentionally didn't go on streets like Almond. It went one street north or one street south of Almond, because the people who live on Almond have the same issue, right? They have the same issue with cut-through traffic, with the high school, with the elementary school, in terms of comings and goings and how that relates. And so trying to think about it more as, what are the issues and concerns that a community of interest would have as you drawing the maps that are different than when you think of a neighborhood. And because you say, okay, what do the people on San Antonio think about? They think about the traffic on San Antonio. They think about getting one across San Antonio in one direction or another direction. They think about the impact of the downtown and 280 on their ability to get out of their driveways, among other things.
Thank you for clarifying that.
The last speaker card I have is for Pierre Bedard.
Good evening. I guess I'm forced to say that I'm speaking as an individual and not as a commissioner, which I am. I have been for districting since day one. I have not agreed with what's been put out publicly by the town crier, by LAR, by others who were just worried about this. I think districting is a good move, and I'll tell you why. One, you can walk the district. If you're running as for the city council, it would really be helpful to actually walk your entire district and have that small of a space to do. I think that it makes this a more city manager-run city. Forcibly, by having districts, somebody has to worry about how it all goes together. If you're uncooperative or you can't agree, the streets still need to get paved, as witnessed by what you guys did on Jardin, thankfully. And a city managed city, I think, is more efficient to do that, and districting, I believe, lends itself to it. Now somebody mentioned a park. What was that about? The El Camino, I really believe the El Camino district should be split along San Antonio, and I'll tell you why. If you put El Camino all in one district, you essentially leave it onto one person to worry about what I believe is an area of the city that you're sort of ignoring. For instance, when the business district was shown, it was shown to have one business district. But the reality is there's businesses on my side of El Camino and businesses on the other side. And guess what? That entire complex at some point will probably be redeveloped at the corner. I apologize. Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. So I don't want to see it. I would like to see it split at that, though, you do what you got to do. But my advice would be if you split it, you'd have two council members worried about what's going on in El Camino. And I think that would force the issues and not polarize the vision of El Camino. Because I truly believe, having lived on El Camino since '99, having added myself to the RENA numbers, living on the Mountain View border, I can annex. No. It's I chose to live there. And the reason I chose to live there is because of the business district. I can walk to the doctor. Hopefully I won't get run over, but I can walk there. I can walk to Target. I can walk to Whole Foods, et cetera, et cetera. So don't ignore that piece of the city. There's more potential, I believe, on El Camino than we really think about. And yeah, I'll take the park. Thank you.
Thank you.
I received one last speaker card from Sharon Fingold.
Hi, I'm Sharon Fingold, member of the community, and I just wanted to respond to a few things. There was a comment about ignoring community maps, and I hope you don't. I submitted 2 of them, and I took it very seriously. I know some of them are a little crazy and have very odd borders, and I think you can throw out because they don't meet the guidelines, but I think there are some there to take seriously. I would also encourage you to ignore the realtor neighborhoods. When I saw that map flash up there, it didn't reflect my reality of what the neighborhoods are in Los Altos. It may help the realtors, but I don't think it makes sense as a citizen living here. I want to say the same thing the gentleman before me said. I do like the idea of multiple districts being responsible for different commercial areas instead of having the commercial areas just one district. I think the more that we have cross-district interest in those, it'd be helpful. And also where we're planning on building housing, I think it's important that multiple districts be involved in those, and same with some of our big community items. So when I drew my maps, I was trying to go more horizontally, so there would be more, where I live, more say in downtown or some of our communal interests going that way, going north, rather than the lines dividing us up and down. So, and then I do go back and forth on how important this is. One hopes that all the people, the district reps will work together, and you need 3, right, to pass anything. But on the other hand, we should try to take as seriously as possible ahead of time what may work best for the city as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. All right. And with that, I will close the public hearing and bring it back to council. Who'd like to get us started? Well, what are we doing? Yeah, go ahead.
So what I recommend is we take a look at some of the maps that you like or don't like, and make adjustments to them based on those binaries I referenced earlier in the presentation. So really what we're looking for is how do you want to split the north, the central part of the city, and the south?
Okay. Why don't we go ahead and work from that then? Let's start with the north. Now, when we're talking about the north, really the question is, do we want El Camino to be 1 district or 2 districts? And do we want to divide along San Antonio? Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. So let me look at my colleagues and see if anyone has a strong position about ECR being 1 district or 2 districts. Pete.
While I do appreciate the point of view presented by the folks that would like to split ECR I'm going to shorten it to ECR. I think it should be cohesive and not split. There are two districts, two neighborhoods, if you will, in our community. There's actually three, but there's two that are fairly large that are heavily tilted toward renters. One is basically between here and Foothill on this side of San Antonio, and the other one is down on El Camino. And I actually think if you keep El Camino cohesive, you end up with two districts that have large renter populations. And that drives some differences in policy preferences. And I definitely think that being a renter, and I'm a renter, it puts me into a community of interest with other renters who find similar challenges finding a place to live in our community. I also, by the way, think that John Bear's comments about not using major thoroughfares as the dividing lines has a lot of merit, because I think it's really true that, you know, the residents on one side of Almond or the other, or the residents on one side of San Antonio or the other, share many of the same sort of pain points. But I have yet to see a map that splits the El Camino neighborhood that does so in a way that compels me to support that. So I'm one for keeping El Camino cohesive.
Okay. Councilmember Flagger, do you have an opinion on El Camino?
Not yet.
Okay. Councilmember Liang?
Can we go to Councilmember Meadows?
Okay, guys, I know that this is tough, but we can't keep deferring to everyone else. I'll do it this time, but please be prepared to make some decisions. Councilmember Meadows, do you have a feeling on ECR?
I don't have a strong feeling on it, and my opinion, I see it more as a circle area. So I know we're working with lines, but I really, whether it was the business district map or not, sort of look at a circle radiating out, which doesn't help us with El Camino. I could go either way. I'm sorry. I'm just, all the rationales hold water.
So you have no preference?
I'll go.
Nisa?
Thank you. I was actually trying to find the two maps where I wanted to do the comparison, Liz, because for me, I would need to better understand if it's divided into two different districts, what's contained in each district based on our preferences that we've expressed so far. So for example, someone mentioned there are multiple business districts along the El Camino corridor. And so are you able to tell us, if we were to divide it and using San Antonio as a dividing line, what would be in District 4 versus District 5 with that division? What do we get with District 4 and District 5 versus keeping it all together?
Yeah, and when we draw, we can take a look at how those changes are made, and the business districts will be visible. So we can talk about the pros and cons of moving certain census blocks and how that impacts the population change.
So for me, Mayor, I would need that additional information to see what the district will look like, either if we keep it together or if we divide it.
Okay, Councilmember Liang?
Mr. Mayor?
Yep.
Could I jump in? I mean, so one of the things that, I mean, to your question, well, what would be contained in each district? If San Antonio is the divider, you'd have one district that would have the Sherwood Triangle, which is the Chef Chu's, the what used to be the office building. It would have Whole Foods. It would go down to the sort of the new developments that are coming. It has the Jack in the Box, et cetera. The other side has, I believe it's called Village Court. It has the Dittmer's. It has the building that's office that's been through a number of different startups, and then the two hotels.
And to that point, as someone pointed out, we may be developing one of those business districts. It's part of the plan, so that would actually be housing. And so what we're really looking at, if that gets converted into housing, is the business district, and starting with Chef Chu's, and we hope Chef Chu's never goes away, but Chef Chu's, Lady M's, and then going down to Whole Foods, which would then be the only business district along the El Camino corridor, which for me, Mayor, would mean I'd prefer to keep ECR together.
Councilmember Liang.
Thank you, because that's kind of like supports my thinking. It's about the sphere of influence. And then when Sally was talking about, I see the circles, it's keeping ECR together would speak to that. And also, like when you move down towards downtown, then you have the downtown side keeping.
Okay,
together.
so we have 3 council members who prefer ECR be kept as one district. So then let's move on to San Antonio. Do we want to go north-south on San Antonio?
And Mayor,
Or
I'm
yeah,
sorry,
Councilmember,
just to
go ahead.
clarify, because of course we have to meet the minimum legal requirements here with numbers and everything. So I imagine that this direction we're giving you, you're going to pull it all together. So for example, by the time we get down to South Los Altos, I can say already that I am in favor of keeping the highlands together. So it's how, are we really able to do that while dividing El Camino and what those lines look like? So I just want to clarify that that is the proposed direction right now, where at least 3 of us are saying keep ECR together, but we'll see how that affects other things, the domino effect of how it affects the other districts.
Can we work from both ends?
I would really rather us do one issue at a time. So let's go on to San Antonio. I'll go ahead and start. I think that San Antonio should be north-south. I'm not convinced by the argument that it's better off doing it one street next to it. That doesn't make any sense to me at all. As I'm looking at the maps right now, let me ask you this. If ECR is going to be one district altogether, could map B be drawn such that the green district, which goes up and down San Antonio, but then creeps over to a little bit more of ECR, could that cover even more of ECR, or are we now drawing too weird of a map? I guess the question I'm really asking is, if we've decided to keep ECR together, does that solve the issue of San Antonio? Because then San Antonio cannot be a dividing road.
I don't believe so. Again, we would need to draw it. The population, particularly in the north, is very dense. So moving anything, east of the of San Antonio, that's a huge block of population we would have to check and make sure.
Okay, so if ECR is going to be one district, then we can't do something like map A or map B. We have to do it horizontally.
Possibly, yes.
That's the domino effect I was talking about.
I mean, possibly is not reassuring enough. Is that what we have to do or not?
I would feel more comfortable drawing it in order to give you a definite answer.
Okay.
So are we going to interactive and we can all kind of visually see what we're talking about? Because that would be helpful for me, and she can pull it up on the screens.
So the recommendation was to go down the pinch points, well, not the pinch points, but the decision points, and then work from there. It sounds like that's not what you want to do. You just want to do live drawing?
Well, to me, it's helpful to kind of see what we're talking about too.
Is it easier for you to get decision points first and then draw? Or do you want to draw as we give you a decision point?
It's completely up to you guys. Sorry, I don't have a firm answer on that, but I can do some live drawing while you're giving these directions.
All right, let me go to Councilmember Meadows. She's got her hand up.
Yes, I do, Mayor. And I think I can be a little bit more concrete at this point. If I look at the maps, I can speak to what I see there more so. So when I look at, versus you ask El Camino together versus not. Looking at the maps, I don't like and just focusing on the north part of town for the maps right now. Again, acknowledging there'll be a domino effect, but I don't think map A works at all. Map B does a little better. It's still splitting El Camino. But to me, if you're talking about the splits for the north part of town, C and D make the most sense. They keep El Camino together and they keep a broader area. They're not using San Antonio. To me, that those make more sense, C and D, than A and B. So that does speak to keeping El Camino together, which is your original question, but I'm just giving you some additional insight as I look at the maps themselves.
Okay. All right, why don't we go ahead and live draw while we're making our decisions?
And
then we
Mayor,
can-
if I may,
You
and
may.
as we do the drawing, Liz, to Councilmember Mehta's point, and I agree with her, based on what has been said so far, I think we're narrowing in on map C and D as starting points. So I'm curious, when you look at map D, for example, if we keep ECR together, it divides the highlands. So what is the trade-off? If we wanted to keep the highlands together and El Camino, is it only map C, or is there another way to reconfigure that?
Well, no, because we could do something like map C and D for the northern part of the city, and then we could, because we've got that pinch point in the middle, we can then
Just-
pivot to one of the other maps.
So half of map C, half
Yeah.
of,
C does keep the highlands together as it is.
that's what I'm saying. Yes.
But it breaks up Grant Park.
Well, I think one thing that we know unequivocally is that there will be some divisions in South Los Altos. It's not, it's simply, we've played with the number, with the mapping, and we know that the size of the Cupertino School District is too big for it to be a standalone district for us and so forth. So somewhere, we've got to have some divisions.
And when we talk about El Camino Real staying together, it would be incredibly difficult to use San Antonio Road as a divider.
Yeah.
Why is there, on the map you have on the screen, on the far right-hand side, when you turn the corner going south from El Camino, there's like one extra block that's blue. Can you zoom in right where the blue, the orange, and the light blue meet together?
The yellow, right
Why?
there.
Yeah. Why do you have
Alicia
that
Way.
one little finger of blue there?
Yeah. So it is, let me move this out of the way. So that's an oddly shaped census block. We can easily make changes to that. Let me, so
That's
if we
what
want to
I
move
asked
that
you earlier.
to yellow, that's the population change. It's still under 10%, and we could do something like that. The problem is there really aren't straight lines horizontal across the city, so we defer to you guys on how you want to make those horizontal borders.
All right. So then I guess the question for the council is, do you have a preference between C and D in terms of drawing the line between districts blue and yellow that we see on the screen? Or do you have another alternative that you'd like to propose?
Mayor, if I may, I would
Please.
like to hear their explanation of between C and D, where the D shows a center protuberance, if you want to call it that, for the lower district, but C shows a right-hand protuberance. So what do we, the shift there between a center versus a rightmost intrusion into the northmost district, what is in there when you make these changes? That's what we need the consultant to tell us.
Yeah, but one map came from a resident.
Right, and I know
can we
it
see
doesn't
D?
matter where it came from. I'm just looking to understand what I know numerically they work out approximately the same because these are all within your deviations. But what if we look at including the middle area versus the right area that you're showing us now? What is the difference between those? That's the difference in this
Yeah.
section between C and D.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, if I could.
Please.
Map C, it looks like that right area. So let me back up. Map D, the border on the far right side is Jardin Drive. And so map D would have the high school in one district and then the neighborhoods across Jardin Drive in a different district. But in map C, those would all be in the same district.
Okay, thank you. And then I also see that another difference is that in map C, the neighborhood south of Foothill across the street from Old Los Altos is in District 2, while it's in District 3 on map D.
Right.
I don't know if anyone has a strong feeling
I was
about
gonna
that.
ask.
Strong feeling about that.
So can you clarify, Mr. Maginot or Liz, comparing D and C to that point, what is impacted with regards to downtown and Old Los Altos with those two different district lines?
So if you consider, it depends on your definition of Old Los Altos. So
On the other side of
if
Foothill,
yeah,
from Edith. Got there.
but do you consider El Monte a divider of Old Los Altos? So is Old Los Altos El Monte to Foothill and everything there, or does Old Los Altos include the other side of El Monte?
Well, tell us where the line stops.
So in map D, it uses El Monte as a divider all the way down.
Got it.
And so that neighborhood
Can I see
sorry
number,
about the
the
boundaries.
District 1 in map D? I can't see District 1 in map D. Can you blow that up? Because
So
we were discussing that. Can you make it bigger?
in this one, which is map D, the boundary of El Monte, Foothill, and then it's Summerhill, it's Quinlan, and I forget the other streets. That neighborhood or that area is in one district, and then the University Avenue, Orange Avenue, those would be in a separate district. So that's the difference between C and D for that neighborhood or for that areas on the other side of Foothill.
We're not looking at that right now, so this is kind of confusing.
There you go. So
I'm
following that. And then for the downtown area, is that kept together for both maps D and E?
yes,
yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I think
I got it.
the downtown triangle is together in all 5 maps. It stays in the same district. It's whether or not it's included with the neighborhood across the street, across Foothill.
Can you blow up that one section again? Because I'm trying to look at where what's being in, that area. I'm trying to see what neighborhood there. Yeah. Oh, that's Pine Lane. Okay. I'm inclined to,
You can read these streets.
yeah, now I can, now that they blowed it up. So it was helpful for me. So I'm inclined to lean towards number 1 in D because I think the neighborhood that has the concerns and shared concerns are more inclined to have the same interest, whereas the number 1 in C kind of breaks them up.
Which neighborhood are you talking
So
about?
that's really the junior high school that we were looking at. This wasn't the high school.
No,
That's Egan
the
that
high
we were
school.
just. No, that's Egan. Almond is over to, it's not, Almond and the high school are not in that.
No, because it's the back of the high school.
No.
Number
No.
1 is the back of the high school.
No, the high school is
Okay, blow
over.
it up bigger. Let me see it again. Right, to the right. Make the street smaller. No, because if you look at to the right of it,
So that
Seco-
boundary that is there
Sevilla.
on the right, that is San Antonio Road down to, looks like Sevilla Drive.
yeah, but to the right of that, can you make it a little bit smaller? Oops.
And this is where the high school is.
Oh, yeah, and then, yeah, there's Jordan and that whole neighborhood up. You see over here, they kind of have all the same interests.
All right, on map C, D, and E, Los Altos High is not in the district that also has ECR. On all three of those maps, the
Right,
high
but the
school is
point,
below.
it's the line where it's drawn and the shared community interests of concerns.
Okay, so what, are you advocating for C, D, or E, or do you want to propose something different altogether?
I think the number one in D is what I am leaning towards. But can you blow it up a little bit bigger again so I can see where the divide, okay. Yeah, there, stop a little bit, yeah. Okay, where's Almond? Where's Almond?
So
Try to-
Almond is south of the high school.
Okay, south of the
So
high school.
it's not currently on the screen.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Would you prefer the high school in with?
No.
Okay.
No, but it was a clear demarcation where all those people have same concerns, like when they have concerns about traffic and stuff, they're all grouped together.
Let me suggest a different way to describe this. This is D we're looking at, correct?
Yes,
D includes Egan and Los Altos High School in the
correct,
same district,
correct.
District 2, whereas draft C has Egan in 1 and the high school in 2. So is that correct, Elizabeth? Gosh, you know.
No, I think
No, so
the high school is in
the
two.
middle school and the high school are not in the same district for either map.
Yep.
So
I thought they were for map D.
No.
So this is map D.
Would help what
No.
Councilmember Liang is saying. Is it possible to show the names? Because we all know the names of the streets. So for example, we would know Egan is on West Portola. I need to, like, can we
Yeah.
get that kind of information?
Well, how about another idea? Can you, on these maps, can you just populate a mark where every single school is?
Yes. Yeah. And I can do that on District Dirt tonight and then provide future maps with the school locations.
Oh, but not on the maps we're looking at right now?
Not the URL links.
Oh, okay.
And you're not able to do it now? You have to do it later and then send it to us?
Yes.
Okay.
I think one has a stronger shared interest of residents.
All right, so Councilmember Liang prefers the northernmost district in map D.
Correct.
Do any of my colleagues have any thoughts? Do any of you prefer C or E or have another idea?
Oh, I didn't even look at E.
I prefer C.
Why do you prefer C?
C results in what I consider Old Los Altos being cohesive. C also has a more a larger buffer around the high school included in the district.
Oh, we didn't look at E.
Yeah,
It would be good to look at.
but it also puts Old Los Altos and north of the high school together, and it seems to me those neighborhoods have nothing in common.
In C.
Right.
No, it doesn't.
So where's the
No, it
high
does.
school in C, John?
Right.
Is it part of
Right here.
District 2?
In
In District
C,
2.
yeah, it's part of District 2.
Yeah, also north of the high school. Zoom out, please.
Yeah.
North of the high, I mean, that's also what Panchita and there's the streets that are north of the high school are now in the same district as Old Los Altos, and that I think that those neighborhoods have very little in common.
But
I
So
actually
I've been-
think if we could include that,
streets all run
that
together.
section of District 2 in District 1, I believe that the community of interest around the high school shares some of the same concerns as the community of interest around El Camino,
Yeah.
looking at nothing more than the public comments on policy issues that have come before us pertaining to those neighborhoods, which means parking, circulation, issues of where students are going to park, how students are going to get to school. Everybody who, a huge portion, not everybody obviously, but a large portion of students that go to the high school who may not even live in Los Altos are coming through that district to get to the high school.
Does that make the district too large? 'Cause you're saying
It might. That's a big chunk to cut off and
Yeah.
add there. You have to cut off a similar
You're gonna have
chunk
to-
and reapportion, right?
Right.
So I
Yes.
don't know what that, I'd like to see, that's exactly what I'd like to sort of test out with
Can we
I
see-
actually think West Portola, and I actually know, so I would, to accommodate what you're saying, where you pull the high school into El Camino, then I would cut the line across at West Portola and down west. So it would be West Portola Avenue, Los Altos Avenue, all the way down to Old Los Altos. And I don't know what the numbers would look like.
But then, wait, if you look at the number one in D, you keep Panchita as a whole.
Pachita would be, that's on the other side. That would now, based on what.
No, you're cutting Panchita in half if you choose this one. Can we see the number 4 in Plan E? Because then we need to, can we see the number 4 in Plan E? Because then we want to see how that one is. And yeah, and what that includes. Now we can see that.
That uses Jardin Drive as the southern border there on that portion that extends down on the right.
And the high school is
Jordan.
below that.
So the
Sure.
high school would be in District 3.
Too bad then, can't you name it, number it the same, so we always talking about number 1 for that area? It's kind of confusing.
Exactly my point from a couple weeks ago.
So you go 1, 1, 1, 1, so we all talking about ones on all the maps.
It can't be changed at this point.
Okay.
But I know we're not doing live drawing right now, but I'm curious, and maybe we can make a note. If we drew the line West Portola, down San Antonio Road, and then across Edith, that would get the high school area, all the areas around the high school and El Camino.
So this, I believe, is map C. And you're proposing moving this blue district
To
down-
Edith, which
To Edith.
surrounds the high school. And then on the left side, cut the blue section in two at West Portola Avenue. Because then you get all the schools right there. You're going to get Egan, Bullis, the high school if you do it that way. So you want West Portola to be the dividing line.
Okay. And can you instruct me on where West Portola?
West
It's up.
Portola
Okay.
crosses San
Right here.
Antonio.
So it would be West
it's perpendicular
Portola,
to San Antonio.
across
where
to San
Egan is.
Antonio, down San Antonio to Edith. All El Camino would be together.
No, it won't. Up north, can we see further up El Camino?
All El Camino would be together.
I think it cut off
She did.
on the left.
And I know we need to
What-
look at numbers, but I agreed with what Pete said. Like having the high school, safe routes to school, that whole area makes a lot of sense. And I actually think West Portola Avenue is a great divide. And then the West Portola would need to be part of downtown if possible.
It cut off on the left.
Oh, why are those yellow at the El Camino side?
Yeah,
At
'cause
the east yard,
that-
why are those
that-
yellow?
So that's going to be one of the tricky things is that's all one census block. If
Yeah.
you see what's highlighted on the screen,
Yeah,
that is an odd-shaped,
census.
tricky
That's the one I
census block.
talked about.
Can we turn that blue sticking out to yellow? So go back. So that blue, can we make that yellow?
Right here?
Yeah, so it would be 3/4 of ECR, like
Yeah.
7/8 of ECR.
Well, it
So, no, okay.
John, what's on that part of ECR? Is that where the hotels are?
yeah, that's
Yes.
the
Yeah,
Marriott.
that's where, yeah, it's perfect.
So that's just the hotels?
Yeah, because that's where the gas station
Hotels,
is. the Altos Avenue.
Bridgepoint,
I don't want to guarantee that that's just hotels, but I believe so.
No,
yeah, Courtyard,
well,
Courtyard.
You're
Manor.
chopping up the neighborhood right behind the History Museum and the whole Civic Center. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, that doesn't make us,
If
yeah,
we cut it at Edith.
no, that's our either,
So what is a good street to cut across so we keep the high school neighborhood together?
So this blue district is underpopulated. We would need to add population so we can keep the History Museum together if we're following San Antonio Road. So we would go beyond Edith.
Well, then
Okay,
they're going.
correct me if I'm wrong,
A and B.
but there are no voters at the History Museum or in the Civic Center, right?
But they need
the only thing it would
representation.
matter is if you want to make the district look more contiguous one way or another. Otherwise, it doesn't really matter, other than if you're thinking about all the resources that go in there. But in terms of voters, it's irrelevant.
But how many voters do you have with this new configuration in that blue district?
5,000,
yeah, we just have to
Residents.
add. We have to take from the yellow and add to the blue.
or take from the light blue.
but then we're going
no.
about against what we all said earlier
Yeah.
to keep ECR together.
Well, and
so-
you're going back to San Antonio as the divider. Go back to
Yeah,
A
and we
and
didn't want that.
No.
So I think we should go back to either number 4 in Plan E or number 1 in Plan D.
We can also, instead of going down San Antonio, we can go over across Almond, go all the way to the edge of the city, if you would prefer to go over instead of down.
I think if you're going to do this, number one, you want to stop at Lyell, because as you go south of Lyell, you're getting into apartments. You're getting into a very different type of a neighborhood. And then if you're going to make the blue larger by going east of El Monte, you're going to have a very large and kind of unruly yellow district. I mean, now you've got a yellow district that goes from, down Foothill towards Rancho, all the way up to the hood to the
Yeah,
hotels.
that yellow district is too large. I would actually, cut the Rancho area, like move up that yellow district, and it's at 7,000.
And the other thing that we have done here is we have made San Antonio the dividing line.
Yeah. and
So
that's what we
now
were-
we're back to, do we want San Antonio to be the dividing line?
No.
I think that the issues that you're trying to solve regarding the high school, they get solved when you use San Antonio Northwest as the dividing line. I think that if you're going to keep ECR as one district, then you're going to have the goofiness that you have in C, D, and E, and you're going to have 3 districts that all kind of converge on the high school, but does not keep the area around the high school together as a community of interest or a neighborhood, or whatever term you want to use.
Right, but so I am not opposed to using San Antonio as the dividing line if it makes sense. What I didn't like from the initial approach was just assuming these main thoroughfares would be the dividing line without a reason behind it. But
Okay.
if it makes sense,
So-
it makes sense to use it.
So hypothetically, can we have the light blue district? Can you include the 2 old Los Altos neighborhoods that are west of Foothill? No, go ahead and zoom out, please.
Okay.
Southwest of Foothill.
So how would you want to split?
Make those part of the light blue, because right now the light
Light
blue is
blue.
4,700.
Extend the existing dividing line.
Would
Okay.
it help if we shared with you, Liz, the areas where as a council we want to keep together as a starting point? So for example, we say we want to keep all of El Camino together, we want to keep Old Los Altos together, we want to keep downtown together, we want to keep Highlands together. And then you work with that, knowing that we don't want to split up those sections.
Yes.
Okay, hang on. That's what we were trying to do at the very beginning. and then you said you wanted to see it live drawn. I mean, where I think what you suggested makes sense, so why don't we go ahead and do that? But one way or another, we're still going to find ourselves back here.
Yeah.
I mean, one way or, either way, we're going to make our choices, and we're not going to like what we see. And the problem is that there's no way to draw a map that just makes sense to everyone.
Right. And so that's what I'm saying. Let's start with where we feel strongly about keeping together. Those
Okay.
areas.
Mr. Mayor.
So the first principle was we wanted to keep ECR together.
Okay.
We would prefer not to do San Antonio. Well, no, we were told that if we keep ECR together, we can't really do San Antonio north-south. Let me ask this. Is there a strong preference among the council members whether downtown and the Civic Center be kept together or split? My preference would be to keep them together because I think a lot of resources get spent in both places. And if you have two council members who are now focusing on that part of the city, I think it's to the detriment of other parts of the city, especially the southern part. That's my thought, but I'm wondering if anyone else has any thoughts. Councilmember Liang.
Oh, go ahead, Sally. You can go first. Your hand
Thank
was
you.
up first.
I was going to say it needs to be together. If you think of the future and what may be going on in a cohesive plan of downtown and the Civic Center, it's one thing. I mean, there could be city buildings downtown. There could be, to me, it has to be together.
Okay, so for Sally, they're together.
Me too.
For Pete, they're together. For Jonathan, they're together. So that's three. And Councilmember?
Even if it's three, let me share my thoughts.
Yeah.
So I strongly believe keeping downtown together, and I hear Councilmember Meadows' opinion about why it makes sense to also include the Civic Center. I was indifferent, but for now, I will support keeping the downtown and the Civic Center together, and I'll see how it all plays out. But definitely in favor of keeping downtown together. That one I feel strong.
Oh, I don't think anyone would disagree with that, but okay.
But let's see how Civic
Councilmember
Center.
Liang, do you have a strong opinion on keeping?
I was going to comment something else before.
I'd rather finish this. If you don't have a strong feeling on it, that's fine.
Yeah, I don't have a strong feeling on that, but I guess I was going to speak to the maps. Like, when we all looked at the maps, which one did everybody gravitate more to? It would be good to know, like, which one spoke to you more? Like, if we all say, this one all spoke to us and we
All
had
right, no,
all that-
we're going to go through
Okay.
our pivot points, try to get those together, and then see if we can get a map to fit with those. What was our next pivot point, please?
Well, that's one of the
How
maps
you would like
later.
to split the southern portion of the city, so keeping together Highlands or splitting it ensures that each election district has a business center, or you can keep it together.
Okay, so it sounds like we cannot keep the Highlands neighborhood and the Grant Park neighborhood together. And I absolutely hate the idea of not being able to keep those together, but we've been told there's no way to put them into separate districts. So one of them is not going to be kept together.
How is that necessarily true, though? Can we, if the Highlands is in one district and if Grant Park is in one district, neither one of them are large enough to be districts on. If the Highlands is in one district and Grant Park is in one district, neither one is large enough to be a district on their own. So the question then becomes, is there a way that you can add contiguous pieces?
So what I was told was that if you keep the Grant Park neighborhood together, and then you have a separate district with the Highlands neighborhood, there is no way to create a district that includes the Highlands neighborhood that would comply with the compactability requirement of the CVRA. Am I wrong about that?
I would have to see how it's drawn, and you can give us direction on creating a map that would try to do that.
Okay, so hypothetically then, could you, on districting, could you please fill in the entire Grant Park neighborhood and unselect the Highlands neighborhood? John, can you help her do that?
Yeah, and one of the things that I'll maybe ask for clarifications, when you refer to the Highlands and Grant Park, are you referring to the whole of CUSD or just the portions?
No, just the neighborhoods.
east
And we're talking
of
about two different districts,
the
John.
east
We're
of
not
Grant.
talking
Yeah.
about keeping them
So
in
what
one.
we're going to end up with is Grant Park is also going to go into the Oak neighborhood. It's going to have to take up the entire thing. I think it's still going to be a little bit too small, so it's going to have to shift over a little bit, and then the remainder would be with the Highlands.
But that map that you're referring to, Jonathan, does that extend to the Luckies on
Yes.
the Grant Park side?
Yes.
Good.
You,
Okay.
you would have Foothill as the divider.
And then for the Highlands, you could include Loyola Corners.
Oh, I was thinking Trader Joe's.
No, that would be part of the same. No, that wouldn't make any sense. But
Why?
Loyola Corners would make sense
But why wouldn't it make sense
because it wouldn't be contiguous.
if we
Sure it
draw
would.
the Highlands?
Yeah, it's
it does.
contiguous right now.
Highlands is everything
It's
on one side.
it's
No, but it
contiguous
curve
right now.
around. You curve around
Yeah.
to Trader Joe's. It's right there.
Okay, well, but then what? Okay, so then do that, but then put Loyola Corners with Grant Park and put Foothill Crossing with Highlands.
And I'm fine with
One
that.
or the other doesn't matter to me. Which one of those commercial districts is paired with which one of those neighborhoods? Because
Yeah.
frankly, having lived in both those neighborhoods for the last 15 years, I think residents in both those neighborhoods.
Yeah,
patronize-
they're getting it. I mean, we could talk about where
Yeah.
Foothill Crossings is going to go, but it can go to either one of them.
Yeah,
It's
you know,
coming together. Yes,
yeah,
I see
there
it.
may be
I
some
see it.
nuances
Yes,
about where
yes.
you move those lines, but that in
They're getting it.
principle is very reflective of what I think. It's certainly reflective of what I've been talking about, and I think it's reflective of what others have indicated.
That looks much better, really.
Yeah, they're getting it.
All
I'm
right.
just like-
So yeah, so now the question is, does this pass muster with the CVRA? Simran, yay or nay?
Well, if you.
I'm sorry. They're quite a bit off right
What
now.
all you
and-
have to do is go back to the District 1 and 2 in the north and reallocate, let's say, for example, if you reallocated Old Los Altos to the Teal District, that would probably go
You're
a
gonna have
long
to
way
take more out
to
of it.
fixing that
You're
population.
gonna have to take
Yeah,
more out of the
I think
records.
just looking at the purple district and the green district.
Do we have a public comment?
Well, now, I mean,
It's a study session.
but it's not a study session.
It's Trader Joe's, and I live near
Okay.
Andronicos. Like that makes no sense. Sorry for the outburst.
That's okay.
But no Luckies. No Luckies.
Andronicos is going to be high density housing.
You're walking distance to Rancho. You're walking distance to Rancho.
Oh no, we required commercial on the first floor, so there'll still be some shopping.
So you see that magenta color, green color, these
Yeah, I don't like it.
are balanced. Previously, this had a 10% total or a deviation, so it needed to lose population. If we can work off of this, how would you want it changed?
Okay, well, let's pause here for a second. The first question is, would the shape of the purple district and the green district pass muster with the CVRA?
I would say it's not compact, but that is the last criteria. So if we can show that we're protecting a community of interest or a neighborhood, then it would pass muster.
So
All right.
can you, I'm sorry, Mayor, through the mayor, can you describe for us what's on the green side and what's in the magenta side?
Sure. So Foothill is obviously the divider. It goes up to Grant, and then that turns left at Fremont. So that would be Merrymead Park and the surrounding neighborhood. Goes north among some of the neighborhoods, and then the top portion, if you just go up, that is Portland Avenue.
So let me just ask it a different way. So Grant Park, what's in the green? Grant Park,
Grant
Loyola
Park.
Corners, Rancho?
No.
What's
Grant
on the
Park,
green?
it's just
Merrymead.
Grant Park.
Grant Park.
It could be considered a little bit of Loyola Corners if you scroll up and to the left. Depends on what you classify as Loyola Corners.
Magenta district now has 3 commercial districts.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
but
agree.
if we're going to keep both Grant Park and the Highlands together, we're going to get something that looks ish like this, right? I mean,
this-
they're
Yeah.
that's the best in keeping them together.
Okay, but what you're showing is something that shows the two neighborhoods together. I'm talking about if we want to keep Grant Park entirely together and we want to keep the Highlands entirely together, they have to be in different districts. And if they're in different districts, we're going to end up with something akin to what we're seeing here.
But
And
in
it sounds
map
like nobody
C,
likes that.
right? In map C, Liz or John, it has the Highlands together and part of Grant Park. Is that correct?
Most of Grant Park is
Correct.
together.
in C. It's the big yeah.
So adjustments to C that would keep Grant Park cohesive, I think that's where I would start.
So yes, can we keep the bottom half of the map we're designing the same as map C, where you have all the Highlands, a part of Grant Park, and then that purple section as the next district? If we use those two districts as drawn in map C, how does that play with what we've already drawn in the north?
So, okay, so this is what we've drawn in the north. We need to come back and fix the population, but it's something to this degree. If we.
But transpose, so are you able to take, is it districts 4 and 5 from map C and put it here?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, you can give me that direction. I can get you maps, or I can do that real fast now.
Yeah, do it
But I
real
would have to
fast
draw
now.
it. Okay, so if we want, let me erase.
Mr. Mayor, if I could.
Please.
It's after 9. Would you like to take a short recess?
Yeah, let's go ahead and take a
That'd
10-minute
give her some
recess.
time to draw.
That was my afternoon.
Are we? It feels like we're taking 10 steps back.
And so does Grant Park go up to Fremont?
I know that.
So,
So it's Grant Road.
That's the Grant Park. What they're thinking when they say Grant Park, they say that's what they're right, Grant and Fremont.
Yeah,
And everything's southeast.
Okay, so that gives us.
John, we need the key.
Oh.
Sorry.
Right, yeah, so that would be
That gives us
all
a,
the Highlands and all of Grant Park in one district.
yeah, yeah. Everything else needs to have a deviation of essentially 0. So if we're able to do that and keep it under total 10%.
I was like, were there here for a second?
Can I look at your screen for 1 minute? I just wanted to see where Grant Park is. Where is Grant Park? I spent a lot of time with this tool, so. Is Pierre still here?
No, he left. He left.
Okay, thank you. Is it that green thing right there? Grant Park. Yeah. So like, what is considered the Grant Park area?
It's Grant Road on the west,
Fremont on the north, put Columbus. That's doable. That's what I'm gathering is they're referring to. That might not be possible. That's what I'm gathering. So. I just want to ask. Yeah. Mine was almost, like, this might have gone up a little higher, and that might have gone over. It's like, well, I'm just, on my best. She lives possibly because of this. Right. Because you either have to chop here to put some of this over here, or you have to chop here to put some of that. I mean, everybody's down there. Isn't that a shame? Do you remember where the high school was? It's like in here, right? So that's why this goes up, right? Is to gather more of the high school. Yeah, you're a genius. And that's what I want to.
I mean, I think it was a lot of step-by-step feel for the geography.
That's literally step by step.
And as
Domain
I
X.
think we tweak it, like we do see.
No, it's a screen picker. So yeah. No, I get that, but that's why we're talking about having one district here and one district here. Yeah, but then where does this get extra people for? So right here, right here. I think this is like this. Maybe cut this part off. In terms of keeping everything compact.
Yeah, you see, great.
This is great. Look here. You come down, and then there's the whole area around the park is within 6 blocks. No, so well maybe you can. What's the plus or minus on each district? You want to be 6,000. You want to be 6,600. That would be within 10%. That's what it is. 10%. But yeah. If you just this, whatever these census blocks are, add them to 5, right? And then to Eric and Pierre were appointed as Abraham those two. Right. So, anyway. All right, well, I'm probably gonna take off. Another reason to resign.
All right, were there other decision points that you needed from us at this point?
Also, the center of the city, how would
Okay.
you want to split that? So
So
are
we
we
get that-
looking at a main road?
So let's go ahead and get to that. Before I do that, we've all been talking about right now, looking at maps more or less A, B, or C. I just want my colleagues to take a look at map D and E, just see it there and confirm that's definitely not what we want. Okay, so we don't want that in the southern part of the city. We want A, B, or C, and we're not interested in trying to make two districts, one where the Highlands is all together and one where Grant Park is all together.
Just to clarify, I support, if possible, to keep the Highlands all together. I'm fine if we need to split up Grant Park neighborhood, which I think we will have to.
Okay.
It's already being done.
All right, so what part of the center of the city did you want us to opine on?
Let me go ahead and share my screen. So specifically, as mentioned in the presentation, we're looking at things like Springer Road or Miramonte, what makes sense to use as a divider. But I will say it might depend on what you do in the north and the south. So do you prioritize those dividers?
Get the other 4 districts right, and what's left is the middle one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what we're, yes.
That seems a little callous to me.
No, but the bottom districts would be what we're seeing in map C or map B. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And then let's see what we have, and then we keep El Camino together. We keep the downtown together and the civic center. And then we can fill in the rest of them.
All right, let me ask you this. Does anyone have a strong opinion about whether Rancho and Loyola Corners should be separate or together? Because they're both very close.
I do, and more specific to the southern districts, I would say that
Mike.
I do feel strongly that Loyola Corners and Foothill Crossing should both be in separately the 2 southern districts. Which one is in which is open for debate. I will say this. I think Highlands makes more sense with Foothill Crossing because people come down Arboretum and go into Foothill Crossing. Like
Okay,
a crap
so
ton.
what I'm hearing is that you want Loyola Corners and Foothill Crossing to be with the 2 districts that are in the southern part of the city,
Yeah.
and Rancho will be in the one that's in the middle.
Yes.
So the dividing line should come between Loyola Corners and Rancho.
Yes.
All right.
And that will result in 5 districts, each with a major commercial district.
All right. Other
I
opinions?
agree. I
Okay.
Wait, you're saying that Foothill Crossing should go to where?
Forget about where Foothill Crossings go. The question is, do you want Loyola Corners and Rancho to be together or separate?
Loyola Corners and Rancho. I think they should be separate.
Okay. Mackenzie Park is right in between Loyola Corners and Rancho. Does anybody care where those are put?
What other parks is it there? Is it Heritage?
Loyola, that would if Mackenzie Park ends up in either of the southern districts, you'll have no parks in the central district.
Right. So
Mackenzie
goes
should,
with Rancho.
by that rationale, Mackenzie should be in the central
With Rancho.
district. Yes.
Wait, with
Should,
Loyola
if it's
Corners.
possible. If it's possible.
Okay. Could you stop your screen share for a second? I'd like to share mine. Thank you. All right, so I'll zoom in a little bit here. I don't want to lose the red line, the dotted line, because that shows the outlines of the city, and if I get too close on Google Maps, it disappears. Where my mouse is circling, that's Rancho, the sort of yellowish area here is a shopping center. Loyola Corners is just down over here. And there's a consensus, if not unanimity, haven't heard from Sally yet, that Loyola Corners will be somewhere in the south part and Rancho will be in the central part of the city. There is then Mackenzie Park, which is right in between the two shopping areas. And then there's Heritage Oaks, which is just down, I think the street is Clinton, that goes down to Heritage Oaks. Heritage Oaks, it seems to me, would have to be also in the southern part of the city because it's actually further east than Loyola Corners. Do we have a strong opinion about Mackenzie Park being in the north or the central? Excuse me, being in the south or in the central?
Yeah,
go ahead, please, Sally.
Okay, so Mackenzie is accessed, as you point out, well, it's kind of accessed two ways, but mostly it's sort of informally accessed along Clinton. And so if that's south, then Mackenzie should be south. I mean, you can't really, I don't think it makes sense to split Mackenzie Park off from where most people get on it, even though that's not the official entrance. I know people do go that way. They walk that way. So.
Okay, I agree. Everyone I know that uses Mackenzie Park comes from the south, not from the central or the north. Other opinions?
I have a different experience. The folks who use Mackenzie Park are from that Rancho neighborhood. They walk sometimes, even they go get their coffee from Rancho, then they walk over to Mackenzie. There is definitely a synergy between Mackenzie Park and the Rancho Shopping Center. I see it all the time. I know people who go from one to the other. And the dividing line, which Clinton, where is that? Because I'm trying to understand.
Clinton is...
It's right. It's the road that runs into it.
Right there.
Yeah.
That's where all the
Clinton
people
is
who didn't
parallel to
want
Manor
a dog
Way and
park.
perpendicular to Miramonte.
Yes.
Perhaps more important than whether or not Mackenzie Park, and more so actually than whether or not either portion of Mackenzie Park is in the center or not, is which district is the municipal service yard going to be in? Because when it comes time to look at some of our longer term plans for what we want to do, I actually think we have more discussion about that.
So if Mackenzie Park is going to be in the southern part of the city, then the MSC would also have to be in the southern part of the city.
Because the MSC is...
Because it's south of Mackenzie.
It actually is right in the middle of Mackenzie. Because you're forgetting about the tennis courts and the dog park that are part of Mackenzie.
Well, yeah, but if Mackenzie Park is going to be somewhere in the south, one of the south two districts, there's no way to get the MSC in a northern part, in the central part of the city.
Yes.
There's no way to do it.
I agree.
All right. So then the question is, do Mackenzie and the MSC do you want to keep them together? I think we have to keep them together. They're probably in the same census tract.
Yeah.
So do we want them in the central, or do we want them in the southern part of the city? Or do we want to see maps that show both?
Why is Clinton Road the dividing line? Why can't we go below?
We could go below.
Okay.
I mean, there's also Altos Oaks Drive, which right now has a bunch of medical offices, but we have rezoned it, or I think we have rezoned it already, so that it can become mixed use or multifamily.
It's commercial neighborhood. CN, I think.
And that census block is Altos Oaks in the north. It's Manor Way until it goes south. And then so that square that's Manor Way, Aura Way, Miramonte, and I don't know what the one on the left is. that's a separate census block, but everything surrounding it is the same.
Okay,
census
so are
block.
you saying that Altos Oaks, McKenzie, and the MSC are all in the same census block?
Yes.
Okay, so then is there a strong preference whether that is in?
Sorry, the southern part of Altos Oaks. So
Altos Oaks is
the,
okay.
is the board.
Is there a preference among the five of us whether that census tract is in the north?
Western part of Altos Oaks? Because Altos Oaks runs east-west.
It runs east-west, but the
So
part
it's
south
Oh, so the
is the
southern
part
side.
yes.
On one side of the street.
Understood.
Altos
Thank you.
Oaks separates two different
I
census
understand.
tracts.
Thank
So
you.
I'd like to see the numbers, but my preference is to include Altos Oaks, McKenzie as part of the center, a part of the
Okay.
Rancho district. I'd like to, and then Manor Way would be part of the southern districts.
I agree with Nisa. I agree with Nisa. If it's
right.
if it's possible, if
Right.
it's practicable,
To see
it's
the
not my
numbers.
highest priority,
Right.
but I absolutely agree with that
Well,
rationale.
they wanted some very clear direction when it came to the middle of the city. That's why I'm focusing
Yeah.
so closely on this. Councilmember Meadows, do you have a strong feeling on this?
No.
Okay. Councilmember Liang, do you have a strong feeling on this?
So can you blow it up again for me to see what the road you're talking about?
Although Nisa, I will say this.
Wait,
I
or
forgot about the
smaller.
Reseda. So
Wait,
they'll still
I'm
want to
sorry, I
park
meant
in the center
smaller,
without-
because she was saying that the line would be
I still think.
including Mackenzie Park,
Have a
Loyola
signature.
Corners,
Yeah, like,
right up.
Okay, because
I
we're talking
wasn't-
about census blocks.
Okay.
The real question is, do you want Mackenzie Park and the MSC to be included with the district that has Loyola Corners?
Yes.
Or with the district that has Rancho?
Loyola Corners. But I did want to
Okay.
speak to something you said earlier.
So, okay, I think we have consensus then that the dividing line is probably going to be along Altos Oaks is what it sounds like. Is there other direction that you want from us regarding the pinch point?
Nope. That
Okay.
is good.
Does anyone, Councilmember Liang, I know you have something else you want to talk about. Does anyone else have any ideas or comments they want to make about the pinch point?
No.
Okay, Councilmember Liang, you wanted to make another point?
Yeah. I think Vice Mayor was saying, put Foothill Crossing together with the Highlands. You have people here, a resident here that says, I don't shop there. They shop at Rancho. So I think the Foothill Crossings goes more with the Grant Park neighborhood, and it's more contiguous with the Grant Park neighborhood. Because then Foothill Expressway is a major thoroughfare.
So then what? You give Loyola Corners to the Highlands?
Loyola Corners to the Highlands?
The part of the
Wait. If we're going with something like A, B, or C, Foothill Crossings is done. There's only one place you can put it.
to keep the Highlands.
Right.
Yeah. I would
All right.
ideally keep
So-
it together, but then I did.
But
when he
that's
was-
the direction that
but-
we've given. So
okay.
let's go ahead and move on. What are the other areas where you need
Well,
direction?
Highlands and Grant Park together, you're saying, right? Keep those two together?
We had taken a look at what a district that had just the Highlands and a second district that had just Grant Park would look like, and we decided we didn't want to do that. That left us with either A, B, and C or D and E. And no one on the council liked the way maps D and E
Right.
handle that.
So
So
we're
if
gonna
we're
lean
looking
towards
at A,
C.
B, or C, Foothill Crossings is done. There's nowhere else you can put it.
Okay.
It
but-
will be part of the Highlands.
Okay, yeah, but I think I didn't like, I was questionable about, where's my other maps? Where did A and B go?
All right, I think we're done with the southern part of the city, right? I mean, we're not keeping Grant Park altogether. A little bit of it is going to be into the next district, and that district is going to go as far as,
I'm missing B.
no, it's not going to go that far. Oh, no, it is. Is that what we said? Did we say it's going to go to Altos Oaks is going in the center or in the south?
Well, it's funny because you summed it up by saying majority supports it doing Los Altos Oaks South. Mackenzie Park being part of South. I'm not sure that's where the support was, but we'll get it back and we'll figure out what it looks like.
Okay,
And they can bring back multiple maps.
okay,
Correct.
Yeah, multiple.
all right. Are there other areas of the city that we want to talk about keeping together or separating? Does staff have, I'm sorry?
Mayor, sorry, I was going to say, I don't think I liked where we ended up with districts 1 and 2. Would like to look at those again.
Yeah, we didn't end up anywhere, quite honestly.
Oh, okay, good.
The only decision there was keeping ECR together, and we were trying to play with what happens
Well,
if we do that.
but then we started moving to putting it into 2.
So Sally, did you have a preference in all of the maps, which either 1s or 4 did you like?
Well, before all this movement, the ones that we saw, I liked C and D, though it sounds like D got ruled out and then A got put back in. I don't think anyone liked A, at least at the beginning. So, but our redrawing got it looking closer to A.
Yeah.
So I'm a little unsure about that part.
Yeah.
So where we kind of leapt off from was what we want to do with the community around Los Altos High School. We know that we want downtown and the community center both to be in one district, one single district. But then there's the question of what's happening around the high school, because you look at maps C and D, and essentially the high school is the pivot point for 3 districts that are coming together. Vice Mayor.
Do I remember correctly that there was support for the notion that the high school should be in the El Camino district?
I
Because
didn't,
Nisa and I agree on that.
I don't.
Well,
I could potentially agree on that because there's a lot of traffic for the high school from there.
yes, that was my thinking, Sally. Given what we dealt with the parking around
Okay.
Distal, et cetera.
So that's fine. Neither map C nor D nor E has the high school in the same district as ECR. So for a district to have ECR and the high school and the areas around the high school, it means that it's going to have to creep away from the northwesternmost part of the city. And of course, we've got that really goofy census tract in the most northeast end of the city, where on ECR it's the hotels, but then you've got a lot of houses there as well. So if we're going to draw a district that has most of ECR and the high school and the areas around the high school, we're not going to be able to keep ECR all together.
I'm not convinced of that.
And as someone who supported keeping all of ECR together, if we have to approve a map that carves out just that small area of ECR, I would be fine with that because it's a really small portion. It's on the other side of Los Altos Avenue. I'd be fine if that small part of ECR isn't part of the
All
ECR
right.
district.
Can we live draw that to determine whether we can do it?
Well, and I'm not sure that in the future that's the case, because I know that the area behind the courtyard is something that could be sold and developed. And so I'm really not convinced that statement is correct in 10 or 15 years.
I also agree with that.
Yeah.
So this is,
We redistricted 6.
yeah. So this is based,
In 6 years.
this is based on what I've heard thus far, or what the council has done thus far this evening.
All right, so this has the high school and the areas north of the high school, but not south of the high school or
Correct.
east of the high school.
Correct.
And we also, when we start doing this, now we're using San Antonio as the divider.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Well, and there's also from El Camino all the way to 280 is that district. That just doesn't
So
make
I'm going to
sense.
look at Pete and Nisa and say, what's more important to you? Not using San Antonio, keeping El Camino together, or keeping the high school area together?
Right, but looking at what we have on the screen, where it's only a sliver of El Camino that's actually divided from the rest of El Camino, that looks a lot different from map A, which has the San Antonio division all the way through. Whereas the map that we're looking on the screen, it's a sliver. Yeah.
Fair enough, but that blue section only has 4,600 voters.
Right,
So to fill it in, I mean, it's not going to go as far as map A, obviously, but you're still going to have to go further up San Antonio.
Right, so I was saying let's expand it around the school area to see where we end up. Because Almond, as you know, is where the high school is,
All right.
so it would be on both
So
sides.
can we make blue that area in between Almond and the northern city limit there? Yeah. So now we're up to 5,600. All right. So what if we go parallel by that and then into the little rectangle?
There we go.
Getting it.
Now you have to add a little bit to the yellow, like south side of San Antonio. Uh-huh.
I think you either have to go all the way to Foothill or you have to stop at Lyell because it doesn't make sense to me that you're splitting those apartments.
I agree.
Okay.
And then we still have downtown and civic center. You get your.
All right. And then do we need to make a little bit more yellow over by the blue? It means that the green district and the lime district are going to be very big.
Right, so let's see what the next district looks like and what the number is. Can we start coloring the?
All right,
next
but before we do, let's look at our experts. Is this going to pass muster? Right now, the way yellow and blue are drawn, is that going to pass muster?
That looks fine to me. I don't see any issues.
Okay.
I want to make a comment because what we're missing is property values, right? And if you look at the way you guys drew the map, you have old Los Altos and you have all the higher, more valued properties in the areas you captured. And I don't think that's right because the way that we had it earlier, it was more balanced because then you got all those lots, that's 1 acre, and the high value lots. So that's why I think when you look at the heat maps on property values, I don't think that's right how we're drawing it.
Wouldn't the high value, assuming you're right, and I don't know that you are, but wouldn't the high value properties be a community of interest?
And the renters, but.
I mean, I know just north of the Civic Center, those are some very high value homes.
Yeah, and then you have like where Susan Wojcicki lives, those are a very high value neighborhood. And you just carved it out and put it in together with all the university neighborhood as well, that's high value. And you're putting them all together and it doesn't seem right.
Why?
So you're gonna, if we created a heat map based on property values, then you're going to create then a.
But we're not doing it based, that's a resulting factor. The intent here is to keep El Camino and the high school and those areas that are impacted by the same traffic circulation and concerns. Like El Camino and the high school, that area makes sense to keep it together. We're not saying we're keeping the homes in the yellow district right now because of property values.
But it was in the back of the high school, and that was fine because that addressed the traffic and everything. And I understand that. And everything you were saying is still being addressed, where you're keeping the neighborhoods of the high school like under C and area E, you got the back of the high school.
I don't
but-
understand why you think property values need to be separated into the districts equally. What's the logic behind that?
It's just a matter of equitable, making sure that there's some balance on people who have, how would I say?
But you're saying the
I don't
same
want it
thing.
to
You're
come
saying
up-
that you want to have balance. Why is that balance important to you?
Because I think when you got wealthy communities, every district, there's some, those in those areas are going to be making sure that the interests as well of can speak to some of the concerns that's happening on El Camino. And we're by separating that area on the left, I think that they would like to speak to some of the impacts that's happening on El Camino that would come down Los Altos Avenue that would impact them as well. So I think it's important to keep that block together as well on the left.
Okay, I find that unpersuasive, but I will look to my colleagues. Does anyone agree with Councilmember Liang?
I don't, and I'm curious to see the rest of this colored.
Okay.
I just.
I'm not dismissing what my colleague has said. I'm not quite sure. I'm not dismissing at all what Councilmember Liang has said. I'm not sure for me it rises to the same level of priority as some of the other things that we're talking about. So my preference would be to finish this, color these in, see how the populations match, and then consider what Councilmember Liang has said, along with a host of other things as we make very small tweaks in sort of the last round of the exercise. Right now, we're still using an axe. When we get down to a scalpel, I would be more persuaded by what Councilmember Liang has said.
Councilmember Meadows?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I think that argument is not necessarily true because there's also a lot of slightly higher density. We have Creekside Oaks in there. We have all the condos in downtown, and those, again, by nature of their smaller size, are less value because they're condos, even though there's some very expensive ones now. So I actually think there's a balance if the district looks like that. That doesn't mean I'm supporting this district, but I don't think that the value necessarily bears out.
Okay, are we expanding the blue and the yellow at all, or are we going into our middle district? And if we are, I think our middle district is going to be huge.
We have to expand the blue and the yellow to meet the numbers. We have to expand it a little.
Do we, or are we going to be
fill it in,
okay?
and can we fill in the Rancho
That's a
area?
5% deviation right now.
Yeah, can we fill in
Okay.
that middle
Yeah, let's
section?
fill it in and then let's play. Right?
Yeah.
Let's not.
Okay.
Could those numbers rise? It's like watching the
I know.
electoral map.
But that's what we do, and then we'll come up and go down and come up and go down.
There you go. Now let's do the teal with the rest of what's not colored and see what we think about that.
Yes, like I'm just like,
Wow.
it's looking.
That looks a lot better than.
Can we save this one, please? I'm like,
But before we do, can you zoom in, please, on the Grant Park neighborhood?
this is mine. The numbers are aligned. Yeah.
What's also interesting to me is the largest district has the fewest sites in our housing element. That largest district, that teal district, has the fewest sites in our housing element. So, actually, no, it's probably the magenta district that has the fewest sites, although Foothill Crossing has some.
Can you make the Grant Park neighborhood complete?
What do you mean?
Like, go to Grant Road? Yes, thank you. And then to the, yes, thank
The
you.
new number.
Not bad.
Is that within the
I mean,
10%
that's
deviation?
68 is less than the 69 that the teal was.
Yeah, so we would need to check the total deviation. Right now, the largest one is 7.57%. Then we need to find the smallest one
Right,
and add
so-
that together.
do the
So total
range.
deviation between magenta and blue is.
It's over 10%.
So we need to.
We,
So
what we
need
can
to
do
make
is-
Blue bigger.
and we can take this and get it to an equal population.
Just make the blue go over to the right, east. To cut into the deviation between.
Yeah, blue, not magenta there. There we go.
That wouldn't pass.
Well, so now you need to add a little bit to the yellow. Probably take from light green to add
I think-
yellow.
No, in the corner, wait.
So you're crossing El Monte. You do know you're crossing El Monte, right? For that blue, for that little segment like that. Oh, okay. Just making sure.
Why wouldn't you take the blue all the way into that protruding rectangle? And then we get closer to 6,300. Yeah.
So it looks even.
Oh, it's too much. Well,
We'll cut off the tail.
Actually,
The tail,
that's a
John,
lot. Yeah.
of the blue.
The rectangle that I just
protrude-
asked you to go.
Well,
Just
no,
cut.
I
Just
got
cut
you.
off. Well, no.
Yeah,
If you
cut
cut off
it
the
off.
tail, you also have to cut off. Yeah.
You have to make it
I see.
contiguous.
Yeah.
unless you put the blue, follow the blue up towards
Oh, this
Foothill.
is not bad. Wait,
Yeah,
wait,
yeah.
what?
Consider
This is not bad.
making this color.
But shouldn't we try to just reduce the magenta? I feel like we're focusing on, because it's the magenta that's causing the huge deviation by trying to keep Grant Park. And I know Councilmember Liang really wants to keep, but that's what's kind of forcing us to tweak the others because it's so
Well,
high.
I mean, we've had this discussion already, right? We were told you cannot have
All of
both
Grant
those neighborhoods
Right.
fully attacked together.
I think we're gonna have to cut some of Grant.
How about if you, I know the intent was to keep Highlands together, but how about if you cut it from Eva and take out that portion of the magenta, the ending part of Eva and make it part of the green, yes.
Better make this magenta.
No, I have a huge problem with that. I mean, you're starting to gain to gain elevation when you go south of Foothill. It makes far less sense to cut the Highlands than to cut a portion of Grant Park.
I agree.
Other than the school, there isn't anything about Grant Park that is, other than being part of the Cupertino Unified School District, there isn't anything that distinguishes Grant Park from the folks that live on the other side of Fremont or the other side of Grant.
Well, I hear what you're saying, but for me the way I analyze it is the northwest corner of Grant Park has more in common with the light blue around it than does the light blue and that one large
You can take
tract
that small
all the
corner
way to the
chunk
west
off.
of the Highlands.
That one.
Yes.
Go ahead and take that,
Wait, which tract are you saying? That one?
yeah. That corner.
All the way down?
Yeah, go and make
All
it
the
light
way
blue like
down,
it was,
John.
please.
To the line.
To make the
Foothill.
square, to make it the square, yeah, there. there.
So I guess between Morton and Newcastle.
Yeah. Yeah, from Grant over to Newcastle.
Isn't that where it was before?
No, it was from Park Hills. It went to Park Hills towards the right. Yeah, those two. Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
So that's 6,200. So
Only the difference between Park Hills and Newcastle is about a dozen houses.
Yeah.
So that's what is in map C.
and then the
Mm-hmm.
middle district
Yeah.
is
gotta
too
add-
big,
you gotta take from the light
6,900.
blue and add to the green. There you
Yeah.
go.
Perfect, and then go down.
That looks
That's
pretty
good.
dang balanced.
Do we have a
Yeah,
map?
stop. The numbers look good. It's
Yeah.
within 10%, definitely.
Well, although
Stop. I need to take a picture of this.
in one, part of CUSD is still being cut off there too.
We have already established
Yeah.
that that is not something that we're gonna actually be able to fulfill as a,
Yeah.
as a requirement.
Mm-hmm.
I hate the yellow district. I mean, it's Old Los Altos, downtown Civic Center, all the way down Los Altos, all the way down to
El
those-
Camino. It makes
yeah.
no sense to me.
Yeah,
either.
it doesn't make sense to me either.
because those hotels have nothing to do with Old Los Altos. It's
Oh, but it's, okay. You have Enchante in downtown, so the two hotels are part of the same district. That's our TOT. Like, I'm just like.
You can take the blue over to make, it's not as nice and tidy, but you can take, oh, that is a weird one.
yeah. The problem is if you make that blue, you've got to make a lot of other things blue.
Yeah.
Right. But you could then add.
So then if we're gonna break up the CUSD district, can we do it like this by Grant Road and do that?
So just adding that one census block to the blue,
Small.
put your population way over.
It's just too big.
Yeah.
And we're sure that's a correct census block? Who drew that thing?
And so, yes, both Old Los Altos and this neighborhood, speaking of communities of interest, they view downtown as their business district. Folks walk from that North Los Altos neighborhood and Old Los Altos to downtown. Like, that is their business district. So this all makes
Also,
sense.
but that happens, you've taken the lime green people who feel the same way and put them in a different district. So
So,
and this is actually where I was talking about concentric circles, and you don't get a concentric circle around the downtown with this, or, that one district just does not lend itself to that.
So I am fine saving this, and then if we want to work on a second version, we can do that. I like this map.
Why don't we start with this map and ask for 5 variations on this map?
Right. I mean,
with small changes.
right, to address Councilmember Meadows and the mayor's concern. Compare other maps if you move the yellow around some more. But I actually, for many reasons,
Okay,
I know
hang on. We've got a council member talking to the expert, so she can't hear us. The discussion is not being heard among everyone. Let's get this back under control. Councilmember Flygar essentially has made a motion or asked the council to give direction to our consultant to draw multiple maps using what we've done tonight as the basis, with particular emphasis at reimagining the north part of the city, and then using 3, 4, or 5 maps that the consultant prepares based on this to see if we've then moved on to the scalpel. Is that what you're asking for?
That sounds great, and I think the vice mayor seconded my motion.
Yes.
But then if we're giving direction and we're gonna have multiple maps, I would like to explore keeping Grant Park together as a whole and then keeping the Highlands together as a whole. I think it still can be done.
That's 6,900.
Yeah, I think
It
we've already
increases-
established
No,
that it
but
can't
no,
be.
you can do it like this, and I think you could keep that as one option, but I think there's another.
Okay,
I
can
think,
you,
I think the council members.
to have a good record, can you please describe what it is? You're showing one council member a map
Okay.
that you've drawn on, which is probably a
think-
Brown Act violation, but putting that
If I
aside.
can help the council member, I think she's saying the Highlands is all together, Grant Park is all together, but not necessarily the same district.
Yes, thank you. I think we should explore options like that as well.
Just to clarify through the mayor, but if we do that, would the Highlands by itself meet the number requirement? Because that's very small.
No, it'd have to go.
It
up.
wouldn't, but I'm not saying that the Highlands need to be by itself. It could incorporate, because this
Yeah.
part is CUSD.
I'm fine with asking them to do that. We'll see what it looks like after
Okay,
the consultant
thank you.
does it.
And I'd be glad to work with you.
I'm not, Mayor.
Okay, is anyone,
Can-
does
can
anyone
I-
else
I have a
oppose
comment?
having the consultant do that?
May I comment and offer my thinking
Yes, you
real
may.
quick? Right? I actually think that what we've got here, from the standpoint of South Los Altos, is the best that we've done. And we've explored all these other options, and we ought to be focusing on those 3 districts in the north and move ahead with what we've agreed to here for South Los Altos. And I would put it to my colleagues to see if they agree or disagree with generally taking what we have here as our principle going, or as our basis going forward
Okay.
for South Los Altos.
So, Councilmember Liang, we already know your position on it. You're the one who proposed it. Councilmember Meadows and Flygore, do you have any
But I
opinion?
just want to make a comment. So then, if you can listen to me and still keep an open mind, if we're bringing back options, it wouldn't hurt to look at the other options. And if the public's going to come and speak, it's
So you
only.
can, we understand your position. I actually agreed with your position. You can insult me if you want. That's why I wanted to know what
I'm not
Lisa and
a-
Sally had to say. Do you
Is
want the
that
consultant to
my
spend any
cue?
time on this?
Is if that's my cue, I'm not convinced about the district from El Camino all the way through 280. It just and you can say, well, people walk that whole length, but you're cutting off people who are a lot closer who walk as well. I mean, even from the blue district, or whether it's the green or the blue. So I would like options around there.
Okay, Sally,
But-
do you want the consultant to also see if in 2 separate districts, the Highlands can be kept together and Grant Park can be kept together, or do you think we're done with that?
I will agree that I think and I can't see it in this map, it can be blown up for Grant Park. I do think that by cutting off that area between Grant Road and Fremont, you're taking just, a couple blocks on the same streets and putting them in the green district versus the pink. I do agree with you, Mayor, about the Highlands district and the elevation. That's more distinctly different, maybe, but people still walk. The thing is,
Okay.
our whole city is walkable. So, but I think we already determined you can't have both Highlands and Grant Park all together in one district. So I don't think we need to
Okay,
revisit
so it sounds
that.
like the consensus of the council then is that we want to leave Grant Park and the Highlands as is, and not get other.
So are you saying that you would not be open to other options that would keep Grant Park together? Because if we're exploring options for your areas, I mean, it's only right we can consider options for South Los Altos as well.
So let me just say, all these areas are our areas, right? We represent all the areas in Los Altos, regardless of where we live. My concern, Councilmember Liang, with your proposal is, and I'm going to go back to the the phrase domino effect. If we now move to what you're suggesting, that affects the green because you're now cutting into it, and then it's going to affect the north. It would basically look a lot different, and we're trying to use this as the starting point.
The same argument applies to North Los Altos.
No, because
Yes,
what we're
it-
saying is
it does.
let's hold these two districts in the south and play around with the three in the north.
All right, I think we've got direction from the majority of the council. We want to see some changes around the north. We're more or less okay with where it is on the south. So that brings us to the question of, do we want to take a look at the other maps on October 8th, or do we want to have another meeting before then?
I'm not sure we'll be able to have a meeting before that because we have to publish the maps at least 7 days prior to the meeting.
Okay, so we will have any idea how many maps you're going to draw?
5 maps.
So we will have 5 maps to think about on the 8th, and it will be our intention on the 8th to select one of the 5, and we will determine whether or not we want to have a duration requirement, and if so, how long it will be, and we will decide which two of the 5 districts will be up for election in 2026. Councilmember Flagger.
Thank you, Mayor. And I just want to emphasize the need to really advertise these 5 proposed maps. And I defer to Mr. Maginot, make sure that these are publicized, they're well circulated, so we don't hear after we vote on October 8th that they didn't know what the proposed. We will still hear that, I'm sure, but we want to be able to respond and say, no, we did X, Y, Z. So please, let's make sure that we publicize the 5 draft maps before our October 8th meeting.
Well, we'd have to publicize them starting October 1st, and so I would hope that we actually get them a few days before October 1st to make sure that we're satisfied with the work product.
Okay, next item of business, council member reports and future agenda items. I would like to propose a future agenda item. Could we, just as an informational item, if my colleagues support me, could we get a report on how the city is managing the BMR units? I don't think Altos is our manager anymore, and just some information about the process that's used, whether it's lottery, first come, first serve, just kind of a report on where we are, because I know things have changed.
I will second that.
Is there a third?
I think we had a
Yes, I'm
report
definitely
last
a
year.
third.
All supported.
But I would actually like to see us go further because it's my understanding. I would like to see us go further with the agenda item because it's my understanding that those BMR units within the categories of preferred tenants or residents, school teachers, et cetera, that it's first come, first serve. And I think we should take up the issue of specifically changing that to a lottery.
So
within-
I'm not disagreeing with that. What I'm asking for is just to get information right now so we know what the current status is. And then based upon that information, we can decide if we want to agendize something for, we might be able to take action. Okay.
So
Okay.
when you say BMR, clarification, please. When you say BMR, would that apply to the ADUs as well in the city? So we have ADUs, and don't we have data on which ones are
So what I'm trying to get
identified as
information
BMR?
about is whoever is managing the BMRs for the city of whatever nature. I know it used to be Alta. I understand it's not Alta anymore. I'm not asking to agendize the whole thing right now, but just to get some information so we can see what the current status is, and then we'll be able to intelligently decide if we want to bring it up and perhaps expand it depending on what it says.
Okay.
All right? Is that clear enough direction? Okay. Anyone else?
Nope.
Okay, then we are adjourned for our regular meeting.
Wait, Mayor?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Sally?
Did the city clerk have something to report out to us?
To reopen that separate meeting.
We're adjourned for the regular meeting. We are now back in session on the special meeting. Okay.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Sorry.
Do we have a report out from the city clerk?
Yes, we do. Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I did want to say this was not on the agenda for the regular meeting, so we could not discuss it at that time. However, this is an extension of our 2 p.m. city council meeting where we held interview sessions for our commissions. And I just wanted to report out, after the interviews were held, the city council voted for their appointments for these commissions. For Complete Streets Commission, we had 3 vacancies for 4-year terms. The applicants who were appointed to Complete Streets Commission by the council are Stephen Katz, Tony Lee, and I apologize, I have his name here, Suresh, I'm going to get this wrong, Venkatraman.
Okay.
That's my best choice. For the Environmental Commission, there are 3 vacancies for full 4-year terms. The appointments are Rashina Humayun, Colum Nee, and David Recht. For the Financial Commission, there is 1 vacancy, and the appointment is Ken Fowler. For the Historical Commission, there's 3 vacancies for full 4-year terms. There were 2 appointments made, leaving 1 vacancy. The 2 appointments were Gina Atkinson and Suzanne McGuire Negus. And again, that leaves 1 vacancy on Historical Commission. For the Parks, Arts, Recreation, and Cultural Commission, there is 1 vacancy. This is a short-term seat which expires in September of 2027. That appointment is David Young. For the Planning Commission, we have 4 vacancies, full 4-year terms. We have 3 appointments: Susan Mensiger, Richard Roach, and Eric Steinley. That leaves 1 vacancy on the Planning Commission. And for the Senior Commission, we have 3 vacancies for full 4-year terms. And those appointments are Jane M. Cohen, Dolores Gallagher Thompson, and Nomi Trapnell.
Madam City Clerk, thank you very much. So this will come back to us on consent at our next meeting.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. To my colleagues, thank you very much for all your hard work tonight. I know that it has been a long night. I don't think it's the first time that we've gone 8 hours, but I think it is the first time we've gone 8 hours and still be done before 10:15. So, again, thank you all. We will see you in 2 weeks. Silver lining.